Balarat, Day 2, May 11th, 2016. Good morning, girls. It's time to rise and shine. It was 6:30 a.m. when our leader, Miss Becky, woke us up. We had 15 minutes to get on some layers and get outside before our morning hike. No brushing of the hair, teeth, or anything was allowed because we were crunched for time. My hair was a mess, so I wore the hood on my sweatshirt so that my friends didn't see it looking like it was. It was a brisk hike this morning. The sun was rising and we were all silent. We hiked to an amphitheater at Balarat, and we were able to use our senses to make observations. I sat on the edge of the amphitheater and looked out onto the meadows. The wind was still howling, but the birds were singing songs this time. We walked back up silently and headed to breakfast. At breakfast, Miss Becky came up to Miss Anna Marie and talked to her about me fully summiting, where all of my friends were going to hike today. She said that Mr. Teague, the caretaker of Balarat property, has helped take a wheelchair all the way to the top of Indian Peaks for a student in the past. A 6-mile round-trip hike from Balarat. Mr. Teague came over and talked to me about the hike and told me that I was going to make it to the top. I was so excited, but a little worried about how we would get there. He had a meeting in the morning, so my crew and I went to learn about archery first. I practically know a lot about archery because my MIS crew has gone a few times this year to do archery. They use the same language as they did at the range that I have been to in Denver. We learned about safety and then got to practice. I was in the second group and was really excited about practicing some more. I got to shoot 12 arrows total, and I made it to the target 3 times. Come on, the target was 30 meters away from where I was shooting. I was just proud of myself and my crew for their accomplishments as well as mine. Next up, Mr. Teague arrived in his big truck, and my crew set off for a bathroom break to begin their hike. We rode in a truck on some bumpy back roads that were more accessible for my chariot. All I have to say is thank goodness for the shocks on that thing, the chariot. We set off to meet with my crew on the 6-mile hike. There was a rope tied to the front of my chariot, so if Mr. Teague or Miss Anna Marie needed to lift me over rocks or boulders, they could. We hiked for about 45 minutes before we met up with my crew. After meeting up, we were just a little over halfway there. More bumps, rocks, and boulders had to handle the chariot. After about 30 more minutes of incline, we came to a point where the boulders were bigger than my chariot. At this point, I got out of my chair and Mr. Teague carried me for the last 15 minutes to summit Indian's Peak. I was so thankful for him because carrying me for 15 minutes, I know is not the easiest thing. But he said to Miss Anna Marie as I was eavesdropping, it's the moments like this that he realizes how much he loves his job. He said that the look on Emery's face, her giggles, and her friends giving her praises and high fives for making it to the top just absolutely made his school year. It made me blush a little too. I can't believe it. I made it, thanks to Mr. Teague and Miss Anna Marie. On the way down, I was so sleepy. Mr. Teague made sure that he had the leash around his wrist, and we were going down, around, and over rocks and boulders. We finally made it back to the truck. This was about a 4-hour trip. When we got back to the truck, I giggled the whole way back to our cabin. I have to say, sorry, Mom and Dad, for the character that came back on the chariot. All you need to know is I had the time of my life up there. So the scratches and maybe some dents were well worth it. Once I got back, it was Bob time again. I needed it as I was so tired, and so was Miss Anna Marie. After dinner, we were ready for the Balarat tradition, the solo silent night walk. This was where we took a hike up. The teacher showed us 3 landmarks to remember on our hike. We started the hike with all 16 of us. Once we got to the top, We were to circle up and face to the outside. Miss Becky, our teacher, was going to come around and tap us on the shoulder. If we were ready to go on our solo silent night walk, we would just begin to walk. If not, we were to shake our head no silently and wait till she came back to us. I was listening to all of the nature, and the skies were getting darker and darker. I still had not gotten the tap on my shoulder. I began to get a little anxious and breathe heavy. But then I was like, why do I need to do this? I got this. At this time, I began to giggle anxiously. Finally, I got the tap on my shoulder. I laughed so hard when she tapped me. Miss Anna Marie and I were off on our walk. It was pitch black outside and no lights to be found. Our eyes had to be adjusted to the nightlight. Once they were adjusted, I couldn't stop giggling. Even though it was silent, I just couldn't contain my excitement. This was the first time I was actually alone hiking outside in the dark. And to be honest, it was kind of cool. Once we got back to the Ponderosa Lodge, we got ready for bed because we had to wake up at 6:30 a.m. and be outside on a morning hike at 6:45 a.m. That is.